With Natlan releasing, there are now a total of 6 regions in Genshin, and we are in the 5th version now. That made me think, wouldn't it be fun to make a video to compare the first character of each version to see who is the best? In this case, the first characters are Venti in 1.0, Ayaka from 2.0, Tighnari in 3.0, Lyney in 4.0, and now Mualani in 5.0. So, who is the best? Of course, I wouldn't just be comparing damage, since not everyone in this list is a DPS. Hence, I'll instead be talking about things such as the ease of use and how they fare in today's meta, for example. Without further ado, let's begin. The first 5-star limited character to be released in Genshin and 1.0 is Venti. When Venti was first released, he was a must-have on every team, particularly for 2 reasons: his crowd control capabilities and the fact that he's an animal character. In 1.0, his crowd control was extremely valuable due to the fact that there were so many smaller enemies that can be trapped in his burst. Hilichos, Sissin mages, you name it. The fact that he's an animal character also makes him able to use Swirl and use the Viridescent Veneer artifact to reduce the enemy's elemental resistance to make him sort of like a debuffer on your team. When there were no other 5-star animal characters, Venti was a must-have. But now, especially with Kazuha, who has more utility due to his amazing buffs and debuffs, Venti is kinda left in the dust. He's only taken out for his amazing second-to-none immobilizing crowd control elemental burst on monolith levels of the Abyss. So, I would say that Venti wouldn't really be the best today, and I wouldn't really recommend you to get him unless you are a huge Venti fan or an Archon collector. Moving on to 2.0, in Inazuma, the first character released was Ayaka. Ayaka was a great character back then, considering the power that freeze teams had. When she's paired with the team of Mona, Kazuha, and Shenhe, it was the perfect way to constantly keep enemies frozen while still being able to do insane damage with an elemental burst thanks to buffs from Ayaka's other teammates. Freezing enemies was extremely viable in the Abyss, especially against those pesky Hydrolectors. If they can't attack you, you can deal as much damage as you'd like. Today, the unfortunate truth is that freeze teams are no longer as viable. There are way too many boss enemies in the Abyss who cannot be frozen nowadays, which will ruin Ayaka's utility. On the other hand, Ryovsty has a similar kit to Ayaka but works better in melt team comps, which doesn't really rely on freeze to be viable. Ayaka's kit is also kinda old in the sense that her cryo infusion can be overridden by Bennett C6 and also has a very high burst cost, which means that you can't really get as much damage out of her as you would like. That said, there are only 2 5-star cryo DPSs right now in the game, and both of them fill a different role. So, pull for whoever depending on the role that you're looking for. In version 3.0, the first patch for Sumeru, Tighnari was the first character as well as the first ever Dendro character to be released. Tighnari is a little bit special considering that he's the only standard 5-star banner character in this list. That said, because Tighnari is of the Dendro element, he doesn't really have to rely as much on attack, but rather focuses on elemental mastery, of which can actually allow him to deal crazy damage while ignoring his poor attack scaling as a standard banner 5-star character. Even today, if you do not have characters such as Elhatem, who people would consider to be the best Dendro DPS, Tighnari can possibly come in a close second. Tighnari's fast-firing bow kit just makes him even better. What's more, with the release of Furina, Tighnari only got better. Furina's kit enables him to trigger Bloom, and hence Hyper Bloom, reactions from a distance, while also buffing his aggravate damage with an elemental burst. I would use him in a team of say Baitsu for shielding, Furina for damage buffing and Hydro application, and Kuki for Electro application. You can also go with Raiden instead if you would like to keep your distance while engaging the enemy. Tighnari would definitely be a contender for the best character in today's list. Lyney is the first Fontaine character to be released in version 4.0. Lyney primarily functions in a mono pyro team as his talents increase his pyro damage based on the number of pyro characters in his team. That said, he can still deal really good damage due to his multipliers. Pairing him with characters such as Kazuha, Deya, or Zhongli, and Bennett to buff his damage just makes Lyney so much more viable as one of the better pyro DPSs. However, the primary issue with Lyney's kit is that he fires his bow kinda too slow, which will make him clunky and deal damage slower despite his huge multipliers. I mean, this is really a personal pet peeve of mine, but slow firing bow characters just don't really cut it out for me. What's more, he literally needs a healer as he cannot get to 5 prop surplus stacks without one. As good as he is, I simply cannot say that he's the best when there are other characters in this list that are easier to use and stronger as well. There are also better and more user-friendly pyro DPSs such as Hu Tao and Arlecchino out there. The final character in today's list that was just released in Natlan's patch 5.0 is Mualani. Mualani has one of the most confusing kit out of all of today's characters. But in Razor's language, basically use her elemental skill to start riding her shark, gain up to 3 stacks by ramming enemies with it, then unleash normal attacks, deal damage. Despite the weird kit, Mualani's multipliers are kinda insane, especially due to her working best with vaporized reactions. Due to a low hydro application, pyro can usually be kept on the enemy, especially through the burning reaction, to allow her to nearly 100% deal vaporized damage on the enemy. She's not really single target either. If you ram more than one enemy with your shark, and you unleash normal attacks with 3 stacks, other enemies marked will also get hit by shark missiles, deal great damage. This new Natlan artifact set also gives her a free 40% crit rate boost after using her skills, thereby meaning that you can build more crit damage for her instead. I'm using her with a team of Emily, Kirara, and Deya. Emily for Dendro application, Kirara for shielding and also giving the Dendro resonance to buff elemental mastery, and Deya for shielding and pyro application for the burning. The main downsides for Mualani is the fact that her damage significantly drops if she's unable to deal vaporized damage, and her shark is sometimes difficult to maneuver, and it takes time to get it up to 3 stacks. That said, I believe that Mualani will only get stronger when the Pyro Archon releases, and I can't wait. Obviously, based on what I've said about Mualani, she'll be the strongest and hence best first character of each new version. But given that Tighnari is also very strong, I'm going to make an exception here. Mualani is my personal best limited 5-star character from the first version, while Tighnari is my best standard banner 5-star character from the first version. If you don't have Mualani, I highly recommend you to get her. If you have made it this far, do consider leaving a like and subscribing if you haven't, as it will really help out this small channel to get to its next goal of 10,000 subscribers. Thank you so much and see you soon! If you'd like to see which standard banner character is the most worth it to build, please click the video on the right. If you'd like to see my other Genshin Impact videos, please click the playlist on the left. Once again, thank you so much for watching and see you again next time. Bye bye!